Britain's recent decision to lower the voting age to 16 in some regional elections has reignited debate in Canada. Advocates argue that youth are engaged, informed, and already affected by political decisions, especially around climate, education, and jobs. Critics say 16 is too young for such responsibility, and that political maturity often comes later. The question, is it more democratic or premature? Eddie, your thoughts on that?
Gary, you and I had talked about this before, and this is not taking away from the capability of a lot of 16-year-olds out there, a lot of smart kids. I'm not necessarily convinced that this would be something that would be right for Canada. I know other governments have done it, but here in Canada, I just don't believe a 16-year-old has the whereabouts to understand the importance of their votes, both to them in the immediate and everybody else in the future. What their vote might mean. I'm not sure they're mature enough or they've experienced life enough to understand the impact of the vote and which way their vote might go towards the next government being set up and what that might mean for their futures. Like I said, hats off to 16-year-olds. They got a lot to deal with, but quite frankly, Gary, I really don't think that a 16-year-old is mature enough to process that decision and making the correct one for them. I'm not really for it, if you ask me.
Well, I was somewhat surprised when I did a little bit of research on this recently, and this is what I came up with, Eddie. Voting age comparison. Here in Canada right now, it's 18. That's federal, provincial, and municipal. And of course, in the UK, it's going to be 16 in the next election. Scotland and Wales, 16. Austria, 16 since 2007. Greece, 17. The US and Mexico, 18. And most OECD nations, 18 as well. Now, in Britain, they're joining, as we see, Scotland and Wales, and it's accompanied by automatic voter registration and expanded ID options. Analysts expect younger voters to lean center-left, but not uniformly. So let's take it another level. Neuroscientists argue that 16-year-olds possess the cognitive skills, reasoning, consequence weighing, abstract thought necessary for informed voting. Early enfranchisement can build lifelong civic habits, per examples from Austria and Scotland. Here in Canada, there has been a reform proposal put out. It was floated by a senator, proposed a merit-based enfranchisement mode. 16 and 17-year-olds could earn the right to vote through civic education, verified community service, or recognized public contribution, creating a voluntary path to early voting. That is really, I think, a reasonable path to allowing younger people to vote and in getting them to embrace the political system and the importance of what we do as far as voting is concerned, because I don't think they're getting a whole lot of instruction in civic politics.
I don't think so.
Civic government, government at all, in school at the moment. I really don't think that they are. However, on the other side of it, yes, 16 seems like a very young age, but we allow them to get a license and drive.
Mm-hmm.
And as you and I have discussed previously, they're driving, like a 4,000 or 5,000 pound weapon down the street. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trusting them to do it and do it in a reasonable manner. Some kind of fall off the wagon, if you will, and they're not as mature. But you can probably think of a number of people you know whose maturity level, and they may be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, their maturity level is no more than that of a 16 or 17-year-old anyway. And they're allowed to do things.
Yeah.
So I'm torn on it. I really think, though, that if it does nothing else other than promote better teachings in school of our civic levels of government and in all levels of government, civic, all politics, we need to really reach out to these young people, because the demographic in this country is aging, and there's now a large proportion of that aging demographic, that's at the higher end, where you're kind of looking down the street and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not that far off. We need to be getting these younger people involved and understanding the situation and the way things work. And if the parties are smart, the major parties, they should be reaching out and trying to embrace these young people and get them to get into the system and understand things on a better scale, because these are the voters of tomorrow.
True.
And if you don't reach out to them, and you don't reach out fairly quickly, you've lost them. And then where does our society go from there?
Yeah. Well, you know what, Gary? I think absolutely. I mean, there isn't enough civic education in our high schools. Look, I don't remember being exposed to it when I was high school. I don't remember my sons being exposed to it when they were in high school. If said country, Canada, wants to get 16-year-olds involved in the vote, and let's just leave the politics aside out of it, they have to invest in ensuring that part of the curriculum in high school includes the importance of voting. Why is it important to vote? What information should you be seeking to decide where you're going to vote? The importance of the privacy of your vote. All of that, I think, has to be taught in our high schools. I mean, look, we've talked about this in the past. Some high schools don't even teach you how to write a check or manage a checkbook, or nowadays online education online on how to pay for a bill or whatever the case is. They don't even teach that, which is rather unfortunate. So, you know what, the government really has to crack down and make sure that high school curriculums include the importance of voting. Our veterans who died for our country and made it possible for us to vote, and the importance of all that history that goes behind it. As a matter of fact, hindsight 2020, I know that Canadian history is mandatory in all high schools, that the kids have to pass that. I think that a segment of Canadian history has to speak specifically on the history of voting, and then just piggyback off of that and continue the education on the importance of voting. At least, as a tax-paying citizen for a very, very long time, I like to have a level of comfort in my mind that the 16-year-old has at least been told or educated about the importance of their vote, and that when they are voting, they're taking into consideration not just themselves, but the general population and the aging population, as you mentioned earlier, that will impact my life as I'm aging, as I'm getting more mature in my age, if you want to put it. I'd love to feel that the 16-year-old is taking it seriously, and they've been educated on this and what the importance is, and to cast that ballot to make it count. That's the important thing.